Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. I'm Stephanie Pawlowski, commissioned lay minister with this church. It's July 3rd, 2020. Although there's a small few strong people here for the weekend of 4th of July, I do have a big group of people helping out. We have Ward Kelsey as a liturgist, Deanna Witkowski is our guest pianist today, Kurt Summersgill and Shelley Collins are our hymn leaders. We have the fabulous tech team of Will and Andrew. We also have some guest readers today who I invited to help me out, Jennifer and Peter Lehman and Katie Lev. We are so glad that you have chosen to be with us this morning. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing and learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome. We are working for justice wherever the heavy weight of oppression has dug into the fabric of life. I am live in our sanctuary, along with some in person and those on YouTube. I have with me today volunteers and staff, all working to bring this worship to you. On behalf of this entire team, thank you for being with us today or whenever you watch it on YouTube. If this is your first time with us, we would love to be in touch with you. If you have not already done so, please go to our welcome desk in the atrium. Or if you're on YouTube, visit our website. Just Google First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh and sign up for our weekly newsletter found at the bottom of the page. You are also invited to join us for social time on Zoom following this live worship. And after the service today, if you're here in person, we will be meeting in the garden for some social time. Please stop by the Schweitzer room and grab a cup of coffee or some light refreshments. It's exciting that we're able to enjoy some time together in this beautiful weather. Today's topic is the gifts of neurodiversity. Although neurodiversity is a wide umbrella that includes ADHD, dyslexia, brain damage, I will be primarily talking about autism spectrum disorder. I also wanted to note that in the autism community, there's no consensus on language. Some individuals prefer autistic, others prefer person with autism. I am using autistic today because it's what my daughter prefers. It's what the authors I read to prepare for today's service prefer. And in the language of neurodiversity, people speak of autistic people in the same way they speak of people in any social minority. Autism is an identity and not an illness. So many people prefer I am autistic. I invite you now to take a deep breath. Arrive in body and spirit, and picture yourself connected to all others who are watching today and in the future. We turn now to our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. If you have a chalice at home, we invite you to light it at this time. Today, we light this chalice in the name of inclusion. May we strive to open our doors to everyone and make this a place where all people can be themselves. May this flame burn bright in your heart and mind as we worship together. Now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Gather the
Please be seated. The story today is called How to Talk to an Autistic Kid. It's by Daniel Stefanski, who was 14 years old and a self-described autistic kid. And I've invited Jen and Peter Lehman to come up and share excerpts of the story.
Good morning. How do you talk to an autistic kid?
Say hi. I want to be included just like anyone else. I may be different, but I'm a person too. People are different in many ways. Skin, color, eyes, color, hairstyle, background, beliefs, you name it.
Everyone has different ways of talking. Some people talk a lot, some are quieter, some people ask a lot of questions, and others like to tell stories. Well, just like anyone else, people with autism have different ways of talking. Some of us say a lot, some a little bit, and some nothing at all. Communicating is hard for us. For me, my words get jumbled up when I talk. Sometimes I make goofy noises when I don't know what to say. Sometimes I repeat myself. A lot of kids with autism are really smart, even if they have language difficulties. Sometimes we may have to slow down when you talk to us or reword what you say. No big deal. If people ask me, "Daniel, did you get what I just said?" it clues me in that I missed something. You might want to try that with other autistic kids.
Many autistic kids aren't good at understanding figures of speech. We think words mean exactly what they say. If you say, "Go jump in the lake," we might think you really mean for us to do it.
Do you know what body language is? That's when your body says something without words. When you shrug or raise your eyebrows, that means something. How you stand, what you do with your hands, and all your facial expressions mean something too. You probably read people's body language without really thinking about it, but autistic kids often miss it or misunderstand it. We also have trouble getting sarcasm and slang, two things middle school kids use a lot.
Lots of autistic kids have trouble looking other people in the eye. I'm not trying to be rude if I don't look at your face when I'm talking to you. I'm not sure why, but it's easier for me to look down. Please don't get frustrated, raise your voice, or shout.
Sometimes thoughts get stuck in my head, and I go on and on about a subject that wows me. I don't mean to be pushy, and I don't want to bore you. It relaxes me to talk about my favorite subject, but sometimes it's like my brain gets stuck, and I need to be snapped out of it. I can get stuck on things I'm doing, too. You could say, "Okay, I get what you were saying, but can we talk about something else now? Or can we try something different for a while?" How do you spot someone who's autistic? Sometimes you can't. We usually look like everyone else, but if you spend time with us, you might notice big or little differences in how we act. I saw an autistic kid flap his arms like a wattle bird. Some autistic kids might rock back and forth or side to side. They might do these things when they are nervous or upset about something, or it might be a habit. They might not realize they are doing it.
Many autistic kids are sensitive to the feel of clothes. Certain clothes make our skin itch or both. That's why when we find a style of clothes we like, we stick with it.
In fact, all 5 senses can bother autistic kids very much. The 5 senses are sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Not every autistic kid is the same, though. Perfumes and other smells can be very distracting to some kids. Fluorescent lights can hurt others, and for some, even soft touches can feel like pain. Has anyone ever told you that to use your inside voice? That's something autistic kids need to be reminded of sometimes. We might talk too loud for the situation, or other times drone on in a flat, boring voice. Some autistic kids might stand too close when they talk to you. We don't realize that we are invading your space.
Be a good friend. I have autism, but I'm cool with it, with who I am. It's easy to be a good friend to an autistic kid. About my life, as me, what I like to do.
How do you talk to an autistic kid? With friendship, acceptance, honesty, caring, and humor.
Having autism makes a little difference from other kids, but in most important ways, we're all pretty similar.
Our religious community is made up of volunteers and staff creating and hosting a variety of programming, even as we stay safe during this time of pandemic. We rely on your financial support. Please take time to reflect on your ability to financially support this community. Donations by check may be mailed to the church office. Electronic donations can be made online through the church website by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the instructions.
We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. Maureen Porter shares both the family's sorrow, but also the joyful release of her father, Warren K. Porter, who passed away earlier this week. He was held and caressed by close family as he gave up his last breaths. He was never alone in his last weeks, his dearest wish. Maureen will remain in Minneapolis for some time. We remember those who are experiencing losses of various kinds and those facing health challenges. We are aware that many are faced with heightened difficulties presented by these times that continue to be challenging for us all. May we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let's continue to care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways we can. We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken. Let's take a moment to be quiet together. You are invited into a few moments of silence, personal meditation. Beside the Pond by Carol and Scott S. I want to stay beside the pond in the grass and listen as the wind rushes through the trees. The breeze is cool and I come alive as the sun warms my bones. I want to stay beside the pond where the birds and squirrels run through the grass looking for seeds. The hunt is on and I can see the sights of nature through my eyes. I want to stay beside the pond in the sunshine and feel at peace as if all is right and good. The shadows grow, and I can hear the supper bell ringing in my mind. I want to stay beside the pond, where all is calm and clean, as if pollution nowhere came, and loud was hushed away. Then I can see the world alive and know that all is fine. Please join me in singing hymn 123, Spirit of Life.
All the
This reading is entitled The Autistic Plea for Understanding. Why do you look at me the way you do? Oh, why do you look at me, upon me, as the way you do? You who see me as a standout. When you look upon me, you see someone who cannot think or know about what it means to learn and to love. You see me as having a disease that needs to be cured, or having been poisoned by a heavy metal. You search desperately for a cause, someone to blame. For I present a great cost, a gift that has become a burden. To you, I seem unresponsive and in constant need. And you want what you think is best for me, to return me to who I was before I changed, the normal person that I was at birth. But your fears, by your fears, you do not see that this is what I was meant to be. I have great potential, a mind that can set endless focus on a single task. Though I may seem unable to ask for help when I am in difficulty, and I do not socialize as you expect me to, it's not a fault of mine. Open your eyes, and you may see that I am not diseased, nor have I been poisoned. And this fault you see is but a part of the whole of me. See not only the muddy roots, but also the beautiful blossom. For I do not need a cure. I need help, to be sure. But come to see the whole of me, and then you can truly say that you love me.
Leonardo da Vinci, Vincent van Gogh, Steven Spielberg, Alfred Hitchcock, Anthony Hopkins, Daryl Hannah, Dan Aykroyd, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Benjamin Franklin, Sir Isaac Newton, Ludwig van Beethoven, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Bob Dylan, James Taylor, John Denver, Charles Darwin, George Orwell, Jane Austen, Emily Dickinson, and Charles Schulz. All of the people I just named are either autistic or suspected based on some typical characteristics and traits of having been autistic. Every reading today, including the prayer, is by an autistic author. The drawings on the order of service were made by my oldest daughter, who is autistic. Jennifer, Peter, and Katie, who helped read today, have all been touched by autism. Most people have a general idea of what autism is. Unfortunately, that view is often based in stereotypes. What comes to mind is Raymond, Dustin Hoffman's character in Rain Man, or to use a more current reference, Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. If you think of kids with autism, people primarily think of white boys obsessed with trains. But autism is much bigger than that. It touches people of all genders, races, ages. Autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD or autism, is a diagnosis that's characterized by differences from the general population in the areas of social skills, communication skills, as well as the presence of certain behaviors which may look atypical from other people. That is incredibly simplistic as a definition, though. In Devin Price's book, Unmasking Autism, he includes an entire chapter just to explain what autism is. A few of his definitions include that autism is neurological, in that it's associated with a specific and pervasive differences in the brain. It is associated with a deliberate processing style, and autistic individuals often lean to logic and reason versus creativity. Autistic individuals process the world in a systemic, bottoms-up manner. Unexpected changes to routines or being able to just wing it can be difficult or impossible to manage. But most importantly, autism is different in every person. There's a frequent saying in the autism community that if you meet one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. Although there are similar characteristics, no one is the same, just like everyone else. And you cannot always tell if someone has autism. Historically, autism has been viewed through a pathology paradigm. And by that, I mean that it has been viewed as a problem that needs to be solved and symptoms that need to be fixed. And as a parent, I see how very tempting that view could be. My daughter was diagnosed when she was 6. At the time, she was struggling with violent aggression towards others. She would run into the street without looking and have complete meltdowns in the middle of public places. Of course, I wanted to stop that, keep her safe, and stop those behaviors. As she's gotten older, it pains me to see her hurt after she's being teased or left out of social activities, and we still have moments of violent aggression. But there is a difference between wanting to help our children not get hurt or hurt others and viewing them as having a problem that needs to be fixed. Applied behavioral analysis is a standard treatment for children with autism. It has a frightening past. The developer, Ole Ivar Lovis, also invented the anti-gay conversion therapy. The goal of ABA, as with conversion therapy, was to change the core of the individual, change their identity so they could fit into an acceptable mold of society. Thankfully, although ABA is still being utilized, my daughter is actually in a program currently, it has softened. For my daughter, the goal is not to change who she is, but to help her to not hurt herself or others as she moves through life. Autism Speaks is probably the largest and most well-known nonprofit that focuses on autism. I'm sure you've heard of it. It is very controversial, however, within the autism community for several reasons. One is their historic lack of autistic leaders in the group. Autistic advocates have long demanded nothing about us without us. It also has focused on finding the cause of autism and eradicating it, finding a cure. The neurodiversity movement flips this entire script. In the book On the Spectrum, Autism, Faith, and the Neurodiversity Movement, Daniel Bowman Jr. explains that the neurodiversity paradigm asserts the basic fact that autism doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to be understood and accepted. Instead of looking at symptoms, we should be looking at people's unique characteristics and traits. It is not an illness, but a different and unique way of being human. The word autism, from the Greek word autos, which means self, and ism means state of being. So in its purest form, autism means the state of being oneself.
Living on a Spectrum by Nikki Satterland. I live on a spectrum of colors and lights, where here it is dark and here it is bright. But mostly I balance on the shades in between. In my world, yellow is happy and blue is sad, and a rainbow is what I am. A rainbow of colors, the shape of a circle, where the ink bleeds from beginning to end. My colors, they shine like lights, bursting from me. Society wants to dim the lights, put a lid on them, tuck them away from everyone's eyes. Because somehow I'm never enough. I'm always too much. Not disabled enough for this, too disabled for that. Not gay enough for this, too gay for that. But my world, this spectrum, is not a puzzle, though I am a piece. There are no slots, no puzzle-shaped holes, but maybe this piece was not meant to fit in. Maybe none of us were. I'll spin, I'll stim, I'll flap, I'll be who I am, and love who I love, and think how I think, and stand where I stand. I'll drop my balancing act, uncap the lid, let out my light, and break out of the shades in between.
The other day, I was talking to my daughter, Evelyn, about autism, and I asked her what good things autism gave her. At first, she said nothing. There's nothing good about autism. She is 12. But when I pushed her and we talked about it some more, she was able to articulate that she's very good at following the rules, and she's even better at making sure others follow the rules, which was very helpful during COVID. She also noted that when she loves something, she really loves something and will focus on it forever and loves it with all of her heart. And she is very good at following a schedule. Dr. Price, in his book, lists common healthy autistic habits and behaviors that he advocates should be understood and normalized in our society. Intense studying of a favorite subject, not noticing sounds or social signals when focused on a task, needing to know exactly what to expect before entering an unfamiliar situation, sticking to a rigid schedule and rejecting deviations, taking a long time to think before responding to a complex question, spending hours or days sleeping and recharging after a socially demanding event or a stressful project, needing all information before coming to a decision, not knowing how to feel or needing a few days to figure out how you feel about something, needing a rule or an instruction to make sense before you can follow it, and not putting energy towards expectations that seem unfair or arbitrary. Normalizing these behaviors would benefit society. Unfortunately, those behaviors can be lost when we focus on differences. When we pathologize autism or look at the quote-unquote weird behaviors, we lose the good, the amazing, the beautiful. Things that would make our neurotypical society so much better. Everyone masks who they are from time to time to fit in with those around us. We hide things about ourselves that we don't want others to see. We mask our natural behaviors or hide our interests to conform with what others want or expect in any certain setting. Autistic individuals mask all the time. It's how they survive. It's how they get through school, advance professionally, make friends, date, run errands, do anything. in typical society. Not only is this completely exhausting, it is dangerous. Autistic individuals have a higher rate of negative mental health outcomes, eating disorders, drug addiction, insecure attachments to others, and isolation. Dr. Price encourages autistic individuals to take down their mask and to radically live as themselves, to radically be themselves. Reverend Kate recently encouraged us to really dig in and examine our UU principles, to not just allow them to be words that we recite, to be empty words. Our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That seems like an easy one. Of course, we see the inherent worth and dignity of every person. But do we really? Are we really living that with all people? It can be easy to accept people with differences that we see, that are visible. But what about hidden differences, neurological differences? What can this church do to embrace neurological differences in our members and to open our doors wider for our guests? Practically, we could offer earplugs, put a notification in the order of service if something will be exceptionally loud or different than normal, provide some more comfortable seating, such as cushions or beanbag chairs. That one could go for a lot of people. Normalize the use of stress balls, fidget spinners, or doodling during services. Provide a quiet space with low lighting if someone needs a break. Create and offer buttons that people can wear that say something like, "Come say hi to me today," or "I need some space." All of these options open our space to embrace people's neurodiversity without signaling anyone out or making them feel like an other. I cannot tell you the number of times I've been with my daughter in public when she's had a meltdown due to overstimulation or some unexpected event setting her off. People have yelled at us, given us looks, unless I quietly whisper that she has autism. Then many, not all, people change their tune. They apologize, offer to help. I've joked in the past that I needed to make little laminated cards that say, "She has autism, either help or go about your business." Although frankly, my cards are a little meaner than that. But you know what? I shouldn't have to tell anyone that she is autistic. I shouldn't have to point out her diagnosis to have people be nice. And as she gets older, it's no longer my right to tell her story. It's barely my right to tell her story now. It is her story to tell if and when she wants to. She can just be her, with all her quirks and beauty and fierceness and passion. If she wants to tell the world I am autistic, or tell no one I am autistic, that's her right. And she should not be treated any differently whether she does or not. Recently, I read something on social media. The hard truth about autism acceptance is that a lot of people don't want to hear it. The hard truth about autism acceptance that a lot of people don't want to hear is that autism acceptance also inherently requires acceptance of people who are just weird. Those people, middle schoolers who growl and bark and run in the hallways, 30-somethings who live with their parents, furries, picky eaters, adults in fandoms, people who talk weird, people who dress weird. Autistic people shouldn't have to disclose a medical diagnosis to avoid being mocked and ostracized for stuff like that. That its absolute worst is annoying. Ruthlessly deriding people for this stuff and then tacking on a, "but it's okay if they're autistic," does absolutely nothing to help autistic people, especially when undiagnosed autistic people exist. Like it or not, if you are going to be an ally to autistic people, you're going to have to leave eccentric people alone, even if you don't know them to be autistic. Thomas Armstrong, in his book, Neurodiversity, A Concept Whose Time Has Come, writes, "The potential is great for the neurodiversity movement to create significant social transformation. Neurodiversity brings with it a sense of hope that all individuals, regardless of how they read, think, feel, socialize, or attend, will be recognized for their gifts and be accorded the same rights and privileges as any other human being. When we look at someone doing something or saying something that seems different or weird, let's check ourselves and start normalizing our differences. Let's create a space where people can take off their masks, where they can be themselves without judgment or fear. Let's embrace the complexity of our brains, the beauty that is found in our differences. Let's strive to open our view of inclusion to really include every person. Let's all radically live as ourselves. What a beautiful world that would be. And our final reading, who am I? I am a work in progress, a tumble of innocence and insight, wonder and poetry, music and love. I'm a teacher, a mother, a writer, a dancer, a fiery redhead in high heels and polka dot dresses, a passionate protector, a still little girl inside who sometimes feels afraid to say one more word or live one more day because I might do it wrong. Again, I'm also the fearless woman whose boundless will refuses to yield to that fear. I am chilly chocolate and tire swings, wild hair and quiet mornings, constantly thinking, spicy and sweet and sad and strange and amazed. I am Jenny, a woman in progress. Each one of us is born with unrealized abilities to think and feel and do much more than we ever think we can. For me, that's autism. A self-referenced, not self-centered way of relating to the world through sound and movement and passion and curiosity. It's a personality full of relentless intensity and cheeky quirks, not a person full of shameful flaws. Because you see, the most important thing autism has taught me isn't how to be autistic. It's how to be human. Please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing hymn 118, This Little Light of Mine.
This
standing and read with me as we extinguish the chalice flame, the words spoken in Unitarian churches throughout the country. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the fire of commitment, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Before I say the benediction and send us on our way, please be seated. Just a reminder, we are having social hour in the garden. Please stop in the Schweitzer room for any snacks or refreshments. Go in peace, return with love, open your hearts and minds, and live your truth radically. So be it.